All right, welcome everybody back to the Somnia Dreamathon workshop series here. Today we have Blake joining us from Myosin. Worked with you in the past. I know there's probably nobody better here to cover the topic of marketing, finding initial users, and just kind of breaking in with your go-to-market. So everybody listen up because this guy knows what he's doing. Other than that, I'll let you go ahead and introduce yourself, Blake.
Rock on. Yeah, thanks so much, buddy. And good to see you again, especially here. And I think there's a lot of fun stuff we'll be cooking up together in the coming months.
For sure.
But yeah, lovely to meet everyone. Blake, co-founder of Myosin XYZ, head of product and community. My background is very much early stage tech, venture product building and launching and investing in early stage companies in New York for a little over a decade before crypto. But yeah, and so Myosin, we call ourselves the anti-agency marketing network, the ultimate marketing network, however you want to describe it. We are effectively a marketing DAO. But the really cool thing is we are vetting and approving only the best of the best. So you can't just join. So we're just aggregating the best people in the space, and we work together. Everything from BD, community content, design, DevRel, growth, PR, KOLs, anything under the sun that qualifies as marketing, events. And we work together with everything from ecosystems like Stellar, Ripple, Near, Polygon, Avalanche. All those are names that we've worked in the past or currently working with, all the way to companies like Wallet Connect, Reon, Gaia, Ritual, all the way down to smaller DeFi protocols, DEXs, list goes on. Very flexible model. We're global. We've been around for a while, and really excited to talk to you guys and talk about go-to-market and super users and how we can get there. But yeah, let's so with that, happy to get into it. But Austin, tell me, you tell me, how do we get this thing going? Should I share screen?
Yeah,
Should
we can.
Yeah.
Go ahead, share your screen. I'll get it pulled up here for you, and I'll yield the floor to you once we get it up.
All right, so we got it here. Can people see that? Oh, nice.
Perfect.
Beautiful. Wait, Austin, are you there or you disappear?
Yeah, sorry. I'm just down in the side.
No, cool. Sorry, I use Riverside, not StreamYard, so I'm just learning how this goes. But yeah. All right, folks. So let's get into it. It's pretty easy. I'm coming from dialing in from East Coast, so it's 1 p.m. East Coast time. Realize we're actually a little past time, so let's just get right into it. But basically, GTM 101, and then actually, I asked the Cracked Labs team here to give me some of the companies that we thought would be attending. So I actually spent a couple hours last night running through your various projects, hoping some of you are here in the space, but we'll get into it. So I already talked about Myosin. I'll skip through this. It's just our creds, why you should trust us, what we do, blah, blah, blah. But let's get into it. So what the hell is go-to-market, right? I think people use that term a lot, but it's unclear. I think the simplest definition is what's your strategy to reach your target market. But a more detailed definition is what is your strategy when it comes to positioning, branding, comms, distribution to win customers, investors. And especially for, I think, if you're in an earlier stage, is how the hell do you get to product market fit, which is really important. Now, that leads us to another question, which is, well, how do you define product market fit? This one's a little trickier because there's a lot of definitions, but you know when you see it. So standard definition, right, from the lean startup is the moment when a startup finally finds a widespread set of customers that resonate with its product. Mark Andreessen from A16Z had a really good one, which is PMF means being in a good market with a product that can satisfy that market, right? Is the market big enough that you're targeting? Are you targeting a niche that's just too small? Who knows? And then on the right, we have a different one, which is more just like the vibe check, right, for PMF, which is like when you don't have it, customers aren't quite getting the value, the word of mouth isn't spreading, the usage isn't growing that fast, press reviews are kind of blah, sales cycles too long, deals aren't closing. And you do know you have PMF when customers are just buying it as fast as you can make it. Usage is growing. You got to add more servers. Money's piling up. You're hiring sales and customer support staff as fast as you can. That obviously is the promised land or the holy land that we're all trying to get to. But as we all know, it's not that easy. So how do you start to get to PMF, right? And so this is something I've thought quite a bit about over the past, not just in crypto, which I've been full-time for a couple of years, but been dabbling in since 2018. But throughout my entire tech career, which has been almost 15 years now at this point. But I guess this line is really just to help you guys understand that, I've heard this so many times, and it's not just a crypto problem, it's a tech problem of devs and engineers who, they're like, yeah, if you build it, they're gonna come. And I can tell you through my experience, having launched my own companies, invested in many others, and advised and whatnot, that's just simply not true. That's just whoever's telling you that just doesn't know what they're talking about, right? And so here are three scenarios I kind of painted out, right? If you have all product, you have no growth or marketing, right? You're just trying to build the best possible product, right? So you can launch. Nobody's really going to care, right? Users are going to churn in and out. They'll have low stickiness, high churn. Every now and then, if you're 1 out of 100, maybe you strike it lucky. Maybe you absolutely crush it. But again, you can't hang your hat on that. You don't want to bet your startup on that. That's a 1 in 100, if not 1 in 1,000 chance that would even happen. Now let's talk about the other scenario. You have no product, you're just complete vaporware, and it's all growth. Well, I think especially in crypto, we see what happens there, right? You're just drumming up hype and interest. There's not enough work on building quality product. We call it a rug pull. That's it. Massive disappointment, high churn, rug pulling, actual rug pulling, accusations of rug pulling, whatever it is. You don't want that. So of course, the middle ground that we're all going after is this kind of, what we call a minimum lovable product, right? There's MVP, minimum viable product, but there's minimum lovable product, which is how do you get to that point where people actually love it, right? How do you find those first 100 super users? How do you have smart, cost-effective growth experiments? And that really is the game of building a startup, right? Again, as someone who's been through it many times, who's currently going through it with Myosin, I like to think we found our product market fit after all these years. Took us 3 years to get to this point, by the way. Shout out to Austin for being a part of it at one point. The reality is you got to be ready to commit and lock in for the long term, because I think a lot of people just think it will be what it looks like on the left. But in reality, it's what's happening on the right, which is you got to go through the grind. You got to go through the muck. You got to keep pivoting, keep testing, keep marketing, keep building. And hopefully, if you're actually listening to your users and finding your super users, you can hit PMF and you can finally scale. And this kind of brings me to, I think, probably the most important slide, I think, in this presentation, which, and it's funny because I've been using this case study since almost 2018 when I was at a venture studio called Human Ventures when this case study first came out. But it actually is quite literally where the term growth hacking comes from. So if you ever look up a book called Hacking Growth by Sean Ellis, he was literally the inventor of the term growth hacking. And he was one of the early marketers, I believe, for Superhuman. So Superhuman, for those who may not be aware, is a very popular email client. People pay a good amount of money for it. My co-founder actually uses it. I haven't been converted yet because I don't want to pay a subscription for email, but people who love it, right? And that case study is actually still used today of how do you find PMF? By the way, they just rebranded, pretty sexy. Check it out. But really when it comes down to, and it's a good old term, a phrase in marketing as well, is if you try to appeal to everyone, you appeal to no one, right? And so with Superhuman, when they first launched, right, what they realized, it was really about customer segmentation, right, and looking for people who could not live without your product, and they made that the absolute core KPI of what they were building. And so what I mean by that is, I don't remember the exact time frame, but let's say it was every week, every month, whatever. They would send an email to all of their users who I believe were free at the time or paying a little bit. And they basically send an email, which is basically like, hey, like, thanks for using our product, but how would you feel if you could no longer use it? And I think the answers, again, anyone can Google this, like Superhuman, first 100 super users, Sean Ellis, Hacking Growth, whatever. But I believe the answers are something along the lines of very disappointed, or like couldn't live without it, very disappointed, neutral, and couldn't care less, or something like that, right? And really, that's what they made as their absolute benchmark, was looking for those people who, I guess, very disappointed was the worst or like the best one you could do. So that is like couldn't live without it. So they basically made it their KPI of, as they're iterating on their product. Because here's the thing, by the way, I've been in this situation. As you're building, you're going to have a lot of opinions. I don't know if I can curse here, but pardon my French, but the phrase I like to use is opinions are like assholes. Everyone's got one, right? So everyone's got an opinion. But how do you know whose opinion you need to listen to? Well, this is where actually surveying your users really comes in handy. Is everyone can have an opinion, but the only people you should care about are the people who really, really love your stuff so much that they'd be very disappointed, right? And so, and again, these are numbers that are all kind of arbitrary, but at least according to the original growth hacker, right? 40% of your user base being very disappointed is a good benchmark to work against, right? And so what they did over time was just month to month or week to week, right? Every time frame, as you just keep checking in, you do your growth sprints, you start to look at like what's that number and what's that metric, and if we can just move that metric, that's really going to create demonstrable impact on the business and getting closer to PMF and growth. Yeah. So this is, I think, something I think you should all think about very carefully with, I see it all day because I talk to a lot of early stage founders as we work with different ecosystems as well. I talk to all types of people, whether you're Dex, whether you're, social file, whatever. It's, you're like, who's your audience? Like degens. It's like, what kind of degens? There's a lot of degens, or what kind of investors, or what kind of social users. I find more often than not that even when we think we know our audience, it's too generic an audience. And the more specific you can get, and the more concrete you can get, and the more you actually listen to them and talk to them and understand of those people, who are the ones that would be very disappointed in not using your product, that is the absolute key to get closer to PMF. Now, let's talk about crypto and how this is different and how it's not. And how do you actually, market against those super users? How do you grow with them? First thing I would say is actually, it's funny. I made this slide a couple years ago, I think, and it's, we've revamped it visually a couple times, but it still holds true, which is, I think about Web 2 or just non-crypto, I guess, at this point. Typically, it's based around paid marketing funnels, right? Set up a landing page, you'd paid ads and sales to generate leads, acquire user customers. We know that today, over the past couple of years, cookies have definitely been on the way out. Customer acquisition costs, that's been on the rise. The traditional funnel tactic doesn't work, where you just have a product, you're just pushing paid ads against it, you generate content, you get to the community. It's a tried and true tactic. It still kind of works, although I would say in the era of like TikTok and AI, this has evolved even more. So it may actually be time to update this slide. But probably more important than this is generally the framework I always think about when it comes to Web3 marketing. I write a lot of proposals every day. I work with a lot of different companies. Everyone's got different flavors to this because, it depends on the company and what your internal marketing strengths are versus where you might need an agency or external support. But broadly speaking, this is the beautiful thing about crypto, which is unlike in traditional Web 2 marketing, where it's very much you just have a thing and you're just like pushing it on people. In crypto, we can create pull. And what I mean by that is you can create a gravitational pull where blockchains or protocols or whatever you're building can allow projects to build direct relationships with your super users, right? The cool thing is because of tokenization, because the idea of launching a token eventually or whatever it is, people are actually incentivized and excited to participate in what you're building. The challenge more often than not is that people just dangle token and don't think about how that actually plays into the ecosystem. So I wouldn't say just launch a token and launch a token. That's a separate conversation. But what you can really do is actually create a real community, right? And create trust in ways that paid social is just never going to do for you. So you can build a community, create content, generate partnerships. So you'll see here kind of the three pillars is, right? If you're starting from nothing, right? I would say if you have a product, first, you got to generate some content, right? Let the world know what the hell is the thing you're talking about? Why is it unique? Why is it different? Why should people want to use it? Which, by the way, is a whole other exercise because I think so many people are like, they tell me what their thing is. I'm like, that's not unique. Like, that's just like everyone else. Like, you got to have a better story. You got to have a better product, many things. But anyways, you got to generate that content. And then from that content, you can use that content to generate partnerships, right? Who are the people, crypto is such a small world, right? Like, who are the other people and companies and protocols that we complementary, that you could collaborate with, that you could work with? There's so much stuff out there, so many other people out there that you could work with. How do you cross-pollinate and win together? That's something, as someone who used to work in tech for over a decade, was something I love about this space, as crazy and the ups and downs that come with crypto. One thing I love about the space is how collaborative and generous so many people are, because we all want to win together. We want to push this industry forward. So I find more often than not, it's super easy to kind of reach out to other people and collaborate and just, do some good co-marketing, not just logo X logo, but real, hey, let's make some content together. Let's write articles together. Let's generate videos together. Let's get creative. Let's do a campaign together. There's so many ways you can collaborate. There are more than just logo X logo on X. And then the last thing here is at the end of the day, right? We call it directed community is, well, who the hell is your community? Who are your users? I find more often than not that so many projects, and especially now in the era of InfoFi, they're just like, who's your community? We're like, yeah, we got people yapping about us. I'm like, are they really your community, or are they just mercenaries who are getting paid to show your product, right? It's a different form of paid marketing, influencer campaigns, whatever. But who are the real people who, as we said before, if your product didn't exist, they'd be very disappointed. They could not live without it. Those are the people you need to find. Those are the people you need to aggregate. Those are the people you need to listen to and pull together and actually work with them to do, again, it's a flywheel, but each of these things feeds into each other, right? Because if you have a great community, they should be able to help you generate this content, right? They should be doing basically, they should be yapping about your thing, but without having to be paid a bunch of thousands of dollars on top for it, right? They should be organically yapping. That's the original UGC, right? And then same thing with partnerships. That's the same thing with Myosin. I would say like so much of our deal flow and people who work with us have come through our members, because our members are our community. They are our marketers, but they're also our BD sales team. And we have about 100 plus of them around the world, and they bring opportunities back into the DAO all day, and it works. So I would say, actually, if anything, don't believe me, I can promise you, like, at least for Myosin, this is 100% what I've seen works. And for our most successful clients, the ones who do it well, they also are able to do it. Now, that being said, I'm sure some of you are like, okay, Blake, like, that's cool and all, but how the hell do I actually do this thing, right? You don't have unlimited funds. You don't have an unlimited resource. I get it. When you're bootstrapped or you're early stage or you don't have a lot of funding, doing those things sounds a lot more intimidating than it is. But what I would say is that as an early stage founder, and this quote is from Ben Horowitz, who is the other half of A16Z. He has a really great book called, I believe it's called The Hard Thing About Hard Things. Read it back in the day. Strongly recommend. Also a great book. Lots of startup founder learnings there. But the beauty of being an early stage founder is that you can do the things that don't scale in order to scale. And what I mean by that is, depending on what stage you are in your life cycle, right? There are kind of three key elements to, well, there's kind of like three stages, frankly, which is like when you're young as a company and you don't have a lot of resource, you don't have a lot of money, but you do have a lot of time, right? And so what I always say is, if you're an early stage founder, the beauty is you can actually do direct outreach to potential super users, initial customers. We call it hand-to-hand combat, which is not scalable at all, but you're early, so who gives a fuck? Don't worry too much about scaling if you haven't even hit a reason to scale yet, right? And by the way, like, the more you do that hand-to-hand combat, you'll be able to provide that white glove service that, a big enterprise company won't. And people appreciate that, right? And then your super users feel appreciated. And the more you work with them, the more you'll be able to hone in on, okay, this is something that people want. You have to ask yourself, are there enough of these people? That's a different question, but they'll be happy, right? And the more happy you make them, the more likely they'll refer people. Then your community helps you generate content, partnerships, right? Goes right back to this. So in that stage one, right, you should be constantly present, key community leaders, etc. Next phase, core community. And I'd say that's kind of where we are as Myosin. Although we're starting to get towards the end of that, almost stage 3, I would say. But as you keep grinding and keep just kind of keep throwing stuff at the wall to see what sticks, right? You'll start to figure out, like, who are your core community members that are like, they're not just your super users, they're like fully bought in. They're like so jazzed about this. They love this thing and they would just want to like contribute. So many examples. We used to do a lot more community management type stuff. We kind of don't do that as much anymore. But back in the day, like, we had a lot of great community managers who rose up through the ranks from nothing. They were just passionate about a project. They're in the Discord, grinding, elevated, contributed. And now some of them, I can tell you, 3 years later, they're heads of ecosystem and community at some of the biggest projects in this space. So my point is, there are people out there, right? And so look for those people and reward those people and incentivize those people to say, hey, you're awesome. Like, I want to give you more ownership over this. And the more they prove themselves and the more they show that they're serious, reward them, right? Because then they can actually, this is a prime example of your community, becoming your biggest advocates, right? And it starts to sustain itself, right? Where now those people feel bought in, they feel a sense of ownership. Give them a token allocation if you are launching a token. And if you're not launching a token, figure out a way to get them some upside, whether it's equity or whatever. You don't have to give them away half your company, but give them some points, as they say, right? Give them something. And then finally, at the end of the day, now, and be smart about it, though. That's a whole other point. Anyways, and then as you grow and scale, right, this is the, again, ideal life cycle that we should all be going for, is what we call escape velocity, where community should be your self-organizing. It should be self-organizing. The more you can get your community to work node to node rather than you have to push everything, they will become your biggest growth engine. And then that's where network effects come in. As a founder, you should still be involved, but just less involved in the day-to-day, right? Something to think about. Now, going back to the go-to-market study, or going back to go-to-market, right, and community content partnerships, just some considerations, right? These are all questions that, and I'll share this deck. So I guess Austin and the Crack team can share this with you guys, and would love to talk to you guys. Feel free to DM me or talk to me at some point. But here's just some questions that I think you guys should be asking yourselves, right? So from your community side, the question is, do you really understand your users, what their pain points are, what drives them? Are you really communicating your value prop, not your product features? Something that happens so little, I guess, in crypto. Like, more often than not, right? You ask someone what they do, and then they just reel off a bunch of features rather than their value prop to their users. Change that. Nobody cares about, how the TPS or how decentralized it is. The question is, what does that do for them, right? What does it do for the user? Why is the TPS going to be better? Why is the decentralization, whatever the hell it is you're building, right? Second thing, are you actually creating experience that people want to participate in, right? Is it the UX really does matter? Design matters. Are there ways for users to get involved? Are you building a community new users want to be a part of, right? Subreddit, Reddit is like blowing up right now in a lot of ways because of AI, but do people want to be a part of it and contribute and, be a part of the vibes? On the content side, I think there's so many ways, we've talked to founders about this so in 100,000 different ways, right? But there's so many different types of content is what I would say. It's like, in certain situations, if you're a very extroverted founder, do more founder-led content, right? Set aside a couple hours a day to just focus on that. Maybe you are a little bit shyer, maybe you just write a newsletter or long blog posts. Maybe you're very extroverted and you want to do videos, actually, like TikTok, UGC style videos, creator economy videos, right? That's anything about. Now, depending on how serious your project is and who you're trying to market to, like, the reality is, like, well, I guess what I'm getting at here is humor, right? But what you have to recognize is that even if you're an institutional B2B project, for example, who you're selling to, you're still selling to humans. Humans still like to laugh, right? So I think that's something you should consider, is like, if you're a DGEM project, definitely lean into the memes and the humor. If you're a more serious project that is less retail focused, it doesn't mean you should never use humor or that you should be doing weird shit posts, but the people you're selling to like to laugh too, right? So consider how you can kind of tastefully implement humor into what you're building. And then, like I said before, your users, your super users, your community, how are you encouraging them to co-create content, yap for you, whatever the thing is, right? They should be promoting your thing as well, because it's in their vested interest if they actually care about what you're doing. And the last thing is partnerships. I feel like that's fairly self-explanatory, so I won't dive too deep into that one. But yeah, how are you like cross-pollinating communities? How are you creating collaborations, content, community off of that, etc.? And then next thing here is just like, what does PMF for community feel like, right? Again, other questions, which, I think the main thing here is, like, if your Discord server was a room in a conference center, would it be empty or would it be buzzing? I think that's fairly self-explanatory, right? I think when we talk about vibes, it's pretty clear. It's not something you necessarily can quantify, although you actually can quantify it, I will tell you. But more often than not, it's how does it feel, right? And what are you doing? What's the input to get the output? So are you engaging with all of your community members daily? I'll tell you right now, like for us at Myosin, like when we first launched, one of our growth hacks was we had a GM bot and people got streaks for GMing. It was a simple and kind of dumb, frankly, like growth hack, but it worked because it's why Snapchat streaks work. It's why streaks in general work. People like the gamification. And I would emoji react on every single GM that every new community member added. And while the GMs weren't the point, they were the thing that got people interested or engaged, that then got them to look at other channels and see, oh, here's other cool stuff they're doing. Right. So what's a simple daily engagement mechanism? And by the way, we still do it to this day. It's not even a GM bot anymore, but it's just people saying GMs every day. And we actually have great participation. How are you building connections between members? How are you making yourself available? How are you building accountability? How are you cultivating the community? What are the rituals, right? Every community needs a good ritual. So maybe it's not GM, right? Maybe if you're a bunch of traders, right, you're posting your wins and losses. Maybe if you're a bunch of, I don't know. I guess it's all kind of trading at this point, right? But whatever it is, right? What's the synchronous and asynchronous rituals that members can always come back to and kind of know is there, because it creates space for them to participate. And the last thing here is just always on research, right? So just recognize that depending on the geography and where you're hitting after, the best marketing and the best way to reach your super users comes from understanding them. And to understand them, you have to listen. The good thing is, obviously, listen to your people and your users first. But the other thing you should think about is and this is a more of a geographical example, but depending where you are in the world, right? Reddit's a really great place to hear honest, real feedback from other people. Although I will say now it's getting more and more AI infested, which is a whole other issue. But whether you're in Korea or Japan, there are different blog sites, there are different ways. There's all types of ways to kind of put your ear to the ground and just say, what are people thinking? What are people listening to? Yeah, so it's all out there. And then the last thing that I'll leave you guys with before we jump into the actual companies themselves is putting all in perspective, which I will say this is the market action this week is not fun, because all my bags are in crypto, like I'm sure many of you are. But as we know, it's about not timing the market, but time in the market. And as we all know, the market is adopting crypto. Banks are adopting it. Neobanks are taking off. Visa, MasterCard, BlackRock, all the capital markets and payments are moving towards crypto. So if you're here, I would just say have conviction, but understand that right now, and by the way, I should probably update this stat. Maybe it's like now less than 1% of the world, right? But we're still super, super early. I would say Web3 is kind of a dying term at this point. I've been telling our team, like, stop using it. Just call it crypto is what it is. But when it comes to market, we were talking about product market fit, right? What I would challenge you all to consider is thinking big and thinking long term. If you want to build a company that scales, are you thinking big enough? Is your market big enough? Because there's a billion people out there. We used to always say, like, onboard the next billion users. Maybe we're a little too early. But now, as the world starts to adopt stable coins, as regulatory things come into light and become solidified, as the banks start to adopt crypto, as payment rails start to adopt crypto, and everyone's using it without even realizing it, I would ask you to consider, how can I reach those people eventually? Should I reach those people? Or do I really just want to focus in on this very small part of a very small market? So it's something to think about, but that's up to you. So food for thought. Now, that being said, Austin, I'm gonna call you up here because I actually have points of view on a couple different companies that I pulled together. I don't know if any of them are here or if we want to put on the hotspot, but I got DApps, Bernie, Liquid, Peridot, Web3 Packs, and Ball 3. I took a look yesterday and more than happy to kind of give a little bit of my hot takes and a gentle, not even a roast, but just like my point of view and to have an open conversation. I like to make it more participatory if we can.
Yeah, let's absolutely do that. Unless, I guess, if you're watching and you object, drop it in the chat. We got Bernie here, so I guess let's start with Bernie. Unless
All
there's a
right.
particular order you want to run it in.
No, we can go around. Yeah. So, all right, let's go. Yeah, roast protocol. So I'll be honest. Bernie really is interesting. I gotta be honest though, is I was very confused. Because I went on the X and I hope that, and by the way, this all comes from a place of constructive criticism. I'm not trying to be rude or anything, right? But I want you guys to all be better. So I'm just trying to give my honest feedback as an external person who, like, last night was just coming in and it's like, let's figure this out. Let's give some honest feedback. I think with Bernie, what I was just very confused because when I went on the X description did not actually tell me at all what Bernie is. It was kind of like, it was like, okay, agents. I was like, something around agents. So then I scrolled down through the X and then I saw one of your users. I think there was a repost from someone else, Ladenzi or whatever, and that helped me understand what Bernie is, which it seems to me it's more like kind of like info. This description I pulled straight from his tweet or her tweet, which is Bernie AI is Fiverr, both AI agents instead of freelancers, which got me one step closer. I was like, okay, I think I'm starting to understand what Bernie is. So then I was like, okay, now let's go to the site. So then I went on the site, but then I was really confused because then what you see as a screenshot is I just saw a dashboard, no landing page, no storytelling. And I have to be honest, all these like AI generated visuals did not generate trust. I was like, I don't want to connect my wallet to this because it just was like, it's like you're just throwing me into it. And I was like, you got to explain to me like what I'm getting myself into. So then I even like clicked around. I was like playing with the things. And I think I was trying to get it because the X post that Ladenzi posted was something along the lines of like, I guess if I use Bernie, it allows me to yap on behalf of projects, but they generate the AI content, like the visuals for me versus the written. But then when I was in the actual app and I was like clicking around, it seems like I could emulate other voices. So it was actually like writing my yaps for me. So I don't know that I think that's, and then the whole like getting paid in roast token versus the native token. And so I think there's like what could be really helpful here is like a bit of a storytelling element. I think it's like the X needs to more clearly, literally just the header needs to actually in like 1 to 2 lines, like having a very clear elevator pitch. Whatever your pinned post is, actually, you know what? I have I have it right here. I left them up here. Let's see. Oh yeah, there's TG contract address. Fair enough. Community, which is great. That's nice. Yeah, the pinned is like not telling me what it is, right? So it's yeah, I just need a better description because it was hard for me as an outsider to want to participate because the trust wasn't there and you're just like throwing it in. But yeah, hope that was helpful. And yeah, more than happy to give feedback as you continue to tweak and iterate on it. But I think just having a simple landing page that just drives you into it would help other people want to participate. That's all. So that's Bernie. But I don't know if you want to come on stage, you want to chat about it or even ask questions. I'm more than happy to. But otherwise, we can chat with anyone else.
Let
Yeah.
me see if I can, because we're on StreamYard and they're like scattered on like YouTube and X. And we're pulling the feeds in.
I see.
So I gotta kind of wrangle here, but I'm sending out DMs. So,
Well,
but
let's see if anyone. Yeah, because the other teams I have on are that I looked at last night were DApps, Liquid, Peridot,
mhm.
Web3 Packs, and Ball. So if you're any of those teams and you want to hear my POV, you're more than welcome to comment or let us know. But otherwise, more than happy to just jam with
let's
Bernie and talk out loud.
let's okay, awesome. And then after that,
Or
we
what
can
do
jump
you think?
over to Peridot because I know they'd be interested.
Should I just talk about it, or what? You tell me? Like,
Yeah. Let's go through. Let's hear what's happening with Peridot.
yeah, I will say I thought Peridot was really interesting. It was actually kind of I felt not like I got rugged, but I felt I don't know. Well, let me put it this way. Oh, also the category is wrong. Sorry, I didn't update that. That's on me. But the description is correct, right? I really liked the tagline: "Earn interest in crypto, borrow funds without selling, all the smart, fair rates across multiple blockchains." That hit, and I was like, "Yo, that's cool." Because it's like multi-chain, like DeFi lending. I get it. Like for crypto native audience, that makes a lot of sense. But then the more I dove into it, I think I got confused because at first it sounded really interesting. I thought the value prop was really well articulated, borrow without selling. But then I thought I was like, wait, isn't that every DeFi lending protocol? Like if I'm lending into Aave, I can borrow without selling my. That's the whole point. So then I was like, wait, so are they trying to convey DeFi to non-crypto users? And then basically I just wrote out my thought process, right? Which was like, okay, so like, then I was like, wait, I love anything cross-chain. I love that. But then I was like, is it just so I can access and deposit with multiple chains? But then doesn't Aave have that, or whatever DeFi? I'm just using Aave as a proxy, right? But any other DeFi lending protocol. So then I was like, okay, so then the idea must be unifying liquidity for certain assets like USDC across multiple chains. But then I was like clicking around. I was like, we work closely with Stellar, so I clicked on Stellar, and then Stellar's separate. So I was like, are you like this is a totally different thing? But then here's the crazy thing, actually. What I would say with Peridot that was really fascinating was I actually found the X to be super helpful, a lot more helpful than the website. Because I think Peridot was doing a good job of kind of like, this literally the pinned post actually made it very clear. Unified cross-chain yield with 0 bridges. That should be on the website. Like that was nowhere to be found. So it's small things like that I think really helped me get more up to date, right? Like this is great, right? Like cross-chain money market makes crypto feel like fintech, clean unified experience. I didn't realize like I don't pay gas. I don't like that's also great. Like, so I think these are the value props that it looks like is really well articulated on the X, but it's not translating over to the site itself quite yet. Although I will say the site's pretty good for, I would say, coming to this early stage. Oh, one small thing I caught. This is just more me nitpicking at this point, but oh, actually, it looks better on this. I'm on my second monitor, but on my MacBook, this color was like barely, like I can't read this at all. So that's a small like design tweak, but not important. Yeah, and then this is another question though I will have, because once I actually started diving into the app itself and looking at liquidity across these different chains, I was trying to figure out. Oh, so I think this is where I'm trying to understand, like, many of these chains don't have obvious overlap, right? So who you're targeting, right? You can have like 20 different chains integrated, but if the TVL on each of them is less than like too small, then maybe it's a better strategy to focus on like what are the ones that have more obvious overlap. I mean, I can see, assuming these numbers are the correct ones, right? Like Stellar maybe was like an original. So like, shouldn't you also have like Solana, because Stellar and Solana have a lot of overlap. Bridging is super easy. There's Rust compatibility. If you're starting here, like how do these things overlap? So I think it's just something to consider is having multi-chain compatibility is great, but just having it to have it, I find to be a challenging exercise. So how are we driving, creating again, it's all about flywheels. How do you create a real flywheel where like, oh, these communities actually like each other, so they want to cross sell each other, right? And cross pollinate and create that cross chain liquidity. But yeah, so that's Peridot. It doesn't seem like we got the Peridot folks here, but yeah.
But I'll be talking to them soon. So that's why I was like, okay, who do I know more here so that like if they're insulted, I can apologize directly. I think
please no, it comes from a place of love. Yeah.
Let's go to Web3 packs because I'm actually curious about that one because they've rebranded. So this will actually be an interesting exercise for like A/Bing it. For them. I know they'll probably get the most of that.
Yeah. It's actually funny. I do know the Charged Particles team. They actually, Ben Lakoff, who used to be on the team, like I remember he was like pitching. This is like 2019. Like, so it's funny.
Yeah.
I've crossed paths with Charged Particles quite a bit. And one of my friends, he's a dev that did some work down in Argentina. Shout out to Santi. But anyways, yeah, Web3 packs. Small world, man. Small world. But yeah, on the Web3 pack stuff, number one, here, let's go to my notes here. So I think the description is very clear. I think the branding is pretty cool. Like it's clean, it's sexy. I get it. But my immediate feedback was like the value prop of like, why do I want a bundle? It was unclear. Because to me, when I looked at the bundles, I was like, okay, cool, like bundles. Like there must be a reason I would buy a bundle. So let's go look at one right now, right? Like let's go look at AI, right? But to me, you know, when I think about buying a bundle, right? And maybe it's like my by the way, my entry point into crypto was like I used to like invest in stocks quite a bit. So like DeFi is my passion. I'm not like the most degen expert of any kind, but it's definitely like I love yield like everyone else, and I am always like looking for the alpha. So to me, like when I saw packs, I was like, okay, that's interesting because maybe they're like curating the best like strategies into like a sexy consumer facing thing. But when I clicked on it, to me, like a DeFi pack, an AI pack, to me, it's almost like an ETF of like, you know, it's a package of not stocks, but like crypto assets. But when I clicked on it, I was like, so what's the point? Like and frankly, like I don't even the Gecko terminal is not working, right? But like for some of these tokens, I was like, right? I don't that's not a good look, right? So the question then becomes like, what is in the pack? What's the historical like? If I'm going to invest in one of these things or I'm going to buy it, like what's the yield? What's the historical yield? What's the projected yield? And why is it better than me just buying one of these tokens on my own, right? Like, is it because of risk management? Am I doing it just because it's like fun and I can like trade these things? So I think that was like my main question that, you know, I just don't have the answer to right now. And then the other question was like, maybe it's just because it's early, but it's like, why are there only 4 kinds of pack and why are they all in mode? Maybe mode, it's like a mode project and it's crushing. I don't know, but that's something to consider. And then I honestly just had questions, which is like, excuse me, it's like, what has their customer acquisition strategy been so far? Like, what are those biggest challenges? My bet would be it's hard to acquire customers if the customers don't know why they should buy the thing. Is my hypothesis. So I think there's like a value prop exercise to be done there of like, what is the thing you're selling and how are you communicating that perhaps? But yeah, but I mean, clearly people have minted it, right? So it's like, why are they minting it? I don't know. So you got to go talk to those people. Like, why do you do it? What do you love? Like, were you doing it hunting for tokens one day? Did you think this would do really well? I don't know. Again, you got to talk to those people, figure out who your super users are. I think that's the key.
Perfect. And again, for then, like in defense of them, like they have rebranded. I'm not 100% certain what that new one looks like. It's been a second since I looked at it, and I review a lot of things. So
yeah,
there's some jello in my brain where it's all mixed together. But
wait, is this the rebrand or is it the old one?
No, this is the old one. But I know that they like just did it freshly.
Okay. I just went off what is on there. Oh, okay. So maybe I'm
so
just like
it's like so some of that might. I figured this would be an interesting one because, like, given that they're like in the middle of that, some of that,
yeah,
I know they're aware of, but other stuff might be interesting coming from your perspective. So I figured that was one that they probably actually stand a lot to benefit from that.
Yeah.
And then
I got a couple others. Ball 3,
Liquid.
Daps.
Yeah, let's do Liquid and Daps.
Yeah. Okay, so on Liquid, this one I really liked. This one I had less comments on. I felt like, generally speaking, like it had a really fun brand. I like the UI UX of the site. It was very clear, at least in terms of like just DeFi permissionless margin. Honestly, I didn't have a huge amount of comments. I think I had more questions than comments, which is like, it seems like they're doing pretty well. I was a little confused about like what chains they're on. Like I know they're like, because the Monad airdrop is coming, so they're like pushing that front and center. But I think the honest question for me was like, who are you targeting and how are you clearly conveying the value prop of permissionless margin trading? Because like I get it, like, you know, especially within crypto, there's a big part of the community where people like, if it's not truly permissionless or decentralized, like, you know, it doesn't matter, right? But let's be honest, like Hyperliquid is crushing, and it's one of the most centralized like chains out there. So I think the market would say maybe people don't really care, right? So if that's your only value prop, I think the brand is sexy. I love the mascot, but I do question, and I'd love to better understand like how traction has been going. And it does feel a little bit to me, and maybe I'm just misunderstanding a part of it, but it feels a little bit to me like almost like a very sexy take on leading with the features rather than the value prop. Because it's like if permissionless margin trading, if the fact that the margin trading and lending is permissionless is the only thing, I don't think that's 10x better than the next thing, right? So it's like there has to be something else there, right? And there are other ways to do it that aren't the tech. It could be like you got a fun cat character and like lean into that, right? Like there's brand, there's community, there's fun. Not everything has to be about money, right? Or even the features. So if it's fast and if it's as good as the next thing, but it has a more fun brand, you might actually be able to win there. That's my hot take. Or maybe you go super deep on Monad because they're about to TG and Monad and mainnet, but that's a TBD, right? Who knows? So I think that one is it's interesting. I had less criticism, more questions that I think need to be answered on Liquid. Yeah. And then I think dApps. This one was the first one I saw. I think the challenge here is it felt a little early because I looked at the site. I wasn't really able to see the app at all. I see they have like a lot of people on the wait list, which I'm curious about how they got to, but I'm just a bit skeptical, mostly just because SocialFi is a really hard category. And so I think the question for any SocialFi company will be like, why is this going to be X Farcaster? I was at Basecamp. I'm an early user of the Base app. Like they're going super deep into social and creators. So on this, like the main question is like, it seems very broad. And the main thing is like, own your content, invest in communities, earn real ETH. Again, like 100% decentralized ownership. Cool. Let's be honest. Most people in social don't really care. The people who do care are probably on Farcaster, right? And now Base is building on top of that. So that's something about. So then like rewards, that could be interesting. Maybe, right? But I guess my point here is like, it would be if I were in this like founder's shoes for dApps, I would be thinking about like, who are my super users? Like what unique problems am I solving that Farcaster, which is very crypto native, and Base app, which are very crypto native, aren't solving, versus X, which is, let's be honest, I think we're streaming this right now to X, right? Like it's still there. Everyone claims to leave and people aren't leaving. Like network effects are very strong. So I think this one is less of a marketing challenge, more of like, what is the product vision? And then how do you market against it? So I think it might be more of a customer segmentation question of like, who are you trying to target? And then how do you reorient your product and marketing strategy against that is my hot take on dApps. And then, yeah, I think that's pretty much it. And then ball 3 was the last one.
Yes.
I had some fun with this one. I thought it was very interesting, unique take. Well, interesting. And then like a fun take of like, I'm a little Pudgy holder, so I'm very familiar with Pudgy community, and they're the only NFT I really of any value that I ever bought or owned. But I get it. Like building an IP ecosystem, I think the brand and storytelling is definitely a little bit different. Having a real game is a plus. I played around with the game last night. I was a little confused, but it may be because it was like 11 at night, and so it's a little bit late for me to like be picking up a new game. But I'd be very curious to learn more about this ball 3 community, how they've been acquiring more players. It was very hard for me to find the game. Although actually I take that back. It was like, I think it's because I was looking on the white paper to find the game, but then I went back to the link tree and it was right there. But yeah, it's a fun one. I'm very curious about like traction and how they've been, growing, right? Like what kind of users that they've been targeting, the people who are playing it, like why do they love it so much? Because the game mechanics I saw last night, I was pretty confused. It was like I was a ball and I was trying to eat other balls and I was throwing there's a lot of balls flying around, quite literally. So trying to figure that out. But yeah, so I don't know. Unfortunately, there's no like, I don't have a magnificent insight here, but I think it's more like questions, because to have good input or get good output, you have to have good input. So yeah, but did my best here. So I think it's overall pretty cool, but some work to be done. And I think it's like, who is the community? How are you doubling down? And again, I think that's the question for every single company here across all these, is like, it seems like everyone here has users of some kind, right? You got people on a wait list, you got people yapping, you got people trading, lending, buying packs, playing games. My big question for all of you is, are you actually talking to your community and you understand what they want and why? And not just random players, right? Like, who are your diehard users? And how do you double down on that? But then, as I said before, if you're going to double down on it, that's great, and you should. But you have to ask yourself, are there enough of these people that you're going to be able to build a business or scale this long term? If you don't think you can scale it to like millions or millions of people, you just have to be comfortable and recognize that. Because there's nothing wrong with that either. Like, you can build a real sustainable company off super user group of thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands. That can happen too, but you just got to understand that also. Yeah.
Yeah, a really interesting.
Anything else?
I think we might have a few questions.
Oh, sorry, I think you're muted. Sorry.
Well, now can you hear me?
Your audio cut out.
Oh, okay. Can you hear me now?
Is that just me? I don't know. It was working earlier.
No, I saw my meters suddenly not working.
Can't hear you.
I'm not sure.
Huh.
Well, okay. I think my audio is coming through for everybody listening, just not for Blake. So
bear with us, folks.
Actually, can you hear me now that you closed that window?
Oh, yeah, great. So if there's any questions, I guess people are welcome. Oh, okay. So maybe is it on me?
I can hear you. So I think
you
just
can hear
read
me,
the message.
but I can't hear you.
Yeah.
Odd. Okay. Well, anyways, happy to do Q&A, I guess. So, Austin, you tell me how you want to get the notes, and I'm more than happy to answer any questions if anyone has any.
Yeah.
But I can't hear you, so you're gonna have to write it somewhere. Sorry. Hold on, let me test on my side. Yeah, I have audio coming through my headphones. And in my settings is good. Let's try this. Oh, I see. Hold on.
How about now? Any luck?
How about? Can you hear me?
Yeah. Now I can't hear you at all. Thank you for bearing with us, everybody. There's always you never know when something will hit. Yeah, your audio's gone. I am going to ask him to rejoin the call, and hopefully that'll solve his audio issues here.
Hold on, let me turn off my headphones. See.
But I guess just like
Austin, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Fuck. Sorry.
But just so talking to like all of you, I mean,
I'm having trouble here. Let me see.
First of all, thank you everybody that like
Audio's
got
working
put on the
my
spot
side.
there. That's always like a little bit of a challenging place to be in, right? But I mean, that's an extremely valuable kind of experience to go through. And I'll also say that, putting together that first team and getting the people that are like understand the problem, can sell it, and build it, and people that can articulate it, that's a hard challenge building out that team. And so that is like, sometimes that's a difficult hill to go up. And like, if that's something you are kind of looking at, yeah, I mean, just diving in and like getting exposure to resources like these lessons and stuff, and finding if you can get like a critique like that is helpful. Showing it to people, see if they get what you're doing and everything. Strangers even, if you can get their attention for a few minutes. But it's a good pitch if you can get the stranger's attention for long enough to give a pitch. But how's the audio doing, Blake?
Yeah, doing good. Can you hear me now?
Okay, awesome. Yeah, I can hear you good.
All right. Any cues? Any questions that
Yeah.
you can answer?
So let's go from the top here. Can you see that on the screen here?
Yeah, I see Melvin Thomas with small community of alpha users, main community kind of inactive. But is that a question or?
Yeah,
do you think
there's
it's a
a
good
second part
idea
there.
to ask our alpha users to be? Yes, 100%. Now, interview them first, talk to them, make sure they're legit, and I'm not saying give them the keys to the kingdom, right? And I think like anything else, it's about setting expectations, right? Like, don't what's in it for them? Like, why should they care? What do you expect of them in exchange for that? Have a real sit down meeting. Don't just, I feel like in crypto, more often than not, people just like send a DM and they're like, cool. And then they get mad because the other person didn't do the thing that they had in their mind. Right. So like have it actually like written out, and you don't have to, like, if they're willing to just do it and help out, great. But you're going to make both sides happier if you have clear expectations on both sides of what you expect from them in exchange for what, whether it's token, whether it's some cash, whether it's both, whether it's he just wants to do it for free. I don't know. Right. That's between you and your community. But yeah, I think that is 100% the way to do it. But I would also, like, when you say your alpha users, I wouldn't just go to anyone. It's like, who are the people you're noticing, right? So this is where hand-to-hand combat, being active in the chats with your community, will help you understand that much quicker. Yeah.
Awesome. We'll leave it open in case anybody else has questions. We have quite a few viewers. But honestly, I think it was just a really solid presentation. So I like not sure how many gaps he like left open there. But also I did just want to say thanks for like taking the time for going through those projects and like doing the write-up. Like,
Yeah, of course.
that takes some resources. So that was awesome to have you do that. Oh, okay. We got Kat dropping in here. What would you recommend in terms of outreach to find more super users when it seems the project is stuck at a?
Well, I think you got to ask yourself, like, if you're stuck in a hump, like, number one, it's kind of like to move forward, you got to look back, right? And you got to look at, again, who is your community? Have you actually identified those super users? And you got to talk to them, and you got to understand, like, who are these people that like my stuff versus like would be very disappointed, right? Use that as like your initial customer persona, because I mean that's what you can work with, right? It's concrete, it's right there in front of you. Talk to your people, figure out who those people are, and then ask them, where do you like to hang out, right? Can you refer some people? Like, set up a referral scheme, right? Like, set up a referral link, because theoretically they like it, their friends will like it, right? Unless they're completely different from all their friends, which does happen, but more often than not, they'll be friends with people who are similar to them. Ask them, where do they hang out? What kind of, if you're trading, where do you like to trade? If you play games, where do you like to play? What kind of games do you like to play? Where do you discover these games? Again, I think, and then you can figure out your marketing strategy from there, whether it's you want to write a bunch of content because all their people just read blogs all day, or whether you need to hop in a random gaming discords and build relationships to do whatever, right? Like, your channel strategy will be informed by your customers and where they live and how they behave. It's what I would say. Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah.
I mean, something that even can be funny that can happen. I talked to a few people, and it's like some similar happened to them, but our business isn't like user heavy, right? We
Mhm,
do like a service for these ecosystems, but we do have a public facing newsletter, and we got put in email jail for a
mhm,
couple weeks because, like,
mhm.
I guess we said crypto too many times. Um, and we started getting complaints because
Hmm.
like people weren't getting the newsletter, and we
Oh,
were kind of like, we're probably throwing this into a void. We didn't know we actually had people that like really appreciated the newsletter
yeah,
until we had a week where it went down.
that's great.
There
Uh,
is a
yeah, I think I'm seeing some questions here from Melvin Tonis. We have users who are purchasing Yappable content at Bernie. We are turning them into content creators. They just need to run nodes that create content. Currently, we are only giving it out to people who have onboarded at least 10 transacting users. Do we think we should make content? I think where I'm getting a little lost is what do we mean when we say you need to run nodes to make content? Again, this is where I'm like, this is where I think having a simple landing page or an explainer on Bernie would help people like me who are just because again, like I'm trying to help you guys and I'm having trouble understanding it, but then what does it mean if you're just a random person who's curious and you go to Bernie and then you're like, what? And you just exit out, right? So you're probably losing a lot of users that way as well. Um, if people aren't able to understand what you're doing within the first 5 to 10 seconds, then and they just find it confusing, they'll probably just leave. It's like having a party, but it's like there's no one there, or it's just like chaos. So
Mhm.
everyone's like, "Nah, I'm good. I'm not gonna come to this party or this bar or whatever." Right? Um, I don't know. Actually, I from what I can tell, it sounds like it actually is. It. I would say like don't. If you're finding that giving out, you need to, currently are only giving it out to people on board at least 10 content creators. Frankly speaking, I don't think I understand the mechanism well enough to speak to that. But what I would say is like if giving out this reward, it sounds like, is for people who've really provided value, I wouldn't dilute that and give it to everyone. I would actually talk to those people, the ones who have onboarded 10 transacting users, and figure out how to kind of bring them deeper into the fold and like actually elevate them and like give them some kind of like status badge or a role, as we do in Discord or whatever, and then use them as like your inner counsel of like, hey guys, we want to grow Bernie, like we'll give you more roast or whatever it is, right? Help us grow this and your token will also be more valuable, right? Like that's how I think about it. um yeah.
Yeah, that's I guess like that's probably a good question in this space, especially with the more complex products where like when the mechanism is intricate, and
Mhm.
often it's rightly intricate. Mm, I guess like penetrating, so like something I'm like actually actively dealing with on the side is a concept which I like to refer to it as like a circle, right?
Mhm.
Where like you kind of have to have all the pieces in the circle in
Mhm.
order to see the shape, right? There's no good entry point, and you kind of have to just find a place and loop back around till it's like they get it. I guess in your experience with kind of complex projects like that,
Mhm.
what do you find is like a good strategy for starting to break it down? Because I mean, probably a good entry point is just like start out by like, what's the outcome for
Yeah,
somebody who does get it, right?
most people
But when
don't
you
give a
take
shit.
that,
We all love
yeah,
our own shit so much. I actually just gave this feedback to Simon because we have to write our own like token white paper, and I was like, we need a dumbed down, simple flywheel, like a circle with like 4 or 5 things
yeah,
on it. And I love him to death. He's my guy, and we work together. We're yin and yang, so he's great. But and I also have this. It's easy, by the way. It's always easy to be the other guy to be like make it simpler because I've also done this. But the reality is, he
yeah.
made it too complicated, and I was just like, no. And I just literally had to cut, like, screenshot it, put it into ChatGPT, and ChatGPT dumbed it down. Um, so what I would say is like there are ways to do both, right? I think it's like again having a landing page on your site that is like very dead simple to understand, But you can always add like want to learn more, like, and you can link out to a white paper or whatever it is if people actually want to get deeper into the weeds of understanding what it means, right?
Yeah.
If your audience is highly technical, then yes, maybe you're going to want to make it a little bit more detailed. But from everything I've seen on these companies, I don't think any of them would benefit from being overly complicated. If anything, the ones that are doing like these all would benefit from being simpler and clearer with telling their story and like why you should want to use it. Nobody really cares about like how you don't ask how the delicious cake is made. You're just like, that's a fucking good cake. I want the
Yeah.
cake to taste good. So like put that in the back, and if people want to learn about it, they can learn about it, right? But put the thing up front and center and explain to them why it's appealing, or make it so obvious that you don't even have to explain it. But in this industry, that's harder to do. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Well, we've hit the top of the hour here, so
Yeah.
we'll probably start winding down now. But yeah, I suppose like from your side, if you want to plug anything, plug Myosin, anything like
No.
that. Like and again, like you said at the top, like I was in Myosin for a bit, and like yeah, fantastic spot just to get that like diversity of like skill set and people that like
No.
proven records and all of that.
Yeah, I would say give me a if you ever want to get in touch or you have questions, like there's a lot happening. I'm getting ready for Dev Connect. I'm quite swamped, but give me a follow at Blake Benho Kim. You can follow me here. You can find Myosin right here. We're doing a lot of stuff. We have a newsletter. We put out a lot of content, smart content. I think we have our members write about our stuff quite frequently. We have a new website coming. Yeah, so actually, if you go to Thinking, check out a newsletter, but we have a lot of great, thoughts from all of our members that you can check out. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. So give us a follow, show some love, and yeah, hope to see some of you guys in Argentina. And yeah, see you guys online. I think that's it. And thanks so much to you guys for having me on.
Oh, absolutely. Have fun in Argentina. I was gonna go, but I am having a son right on the same date, so probably
Oh
need to
wow.
be here. Other than that, though, yeah, everybody, you heard it from the best, and yeah, check out that newsletter. Other than that, we'll see you on the next call we've got and at demo day.
All right. Thanks so much, y'all. Have a good one.
Bye,
All right.
everyone.
Ciao, ciao.